All right. Well, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Xibition Podcast. Today, we are very excited to have guest Jim Greendyk, also known as James Greendyk. He's joining us all the way from the desert in Arizona, where he tells us it's a balmy 26 degrees, light breeze. He just finished riding his horses. He says that life is real good down in the desert. And so, you know what? If you don't know Jim, he used to work and train up here in BC, and he attended shows across Western Canada. But he and his family have relocated down south. They went down to Arizona, and I think things have been going great. But today we are going to confirm if that's true. So, welcome to the Xibition Podcast, Jim Greendyk.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, it's been a year and a bit now since September 17 last year. And, I fooled a couple of people about it going well. So,
Yeah. Well, you still get snow down there. I've seen it in your social media posts and that. And I think the images that you've sent me directly, you still get the snow. It's just off in the distance up in the mountain. Is that right?
Yeah, last year we did have it's crazy to move from, I was in southern Alberta, then I was in southern BC, and I've been across Canada, and always, the last 25 years, I would say, was close to the Rockies or the coastal mountains. And then you think move to the desert, and I actually, our property looks east at 7,000 foot mountains east of us here, Four Peaks and such, just across the river. So we have a clear view east of us towards the Tonto National Forest. And last year we did. I mean, I had a couple days, how quickly you get soft. I mean, it probably takes a week for most people. Maybe it took 2 weeks for me because I was probably mostly rawhide. But it was really funny in February. I was loading up. We were having rain and it was cold and nasty. And I'm so determined to train every day, so I'm loading up and hauling to Lisa Coulter. Speaking of Canadians, Lisa Coulter's indoor arena is just around the corner here. She used to own yellow jersey, etc. And I'm hauling over there, and I got some friends who are going to come ride. And I kid you not, we took the first horse off the trailer, and my help walked into the covered pen. And, there's no sides on it or anything. So, she walks in. I said, well, just tie it to the fence along the side, whichever's the driest. And, it was like the rain was blowing in, and it was nasty. And she stood out in the middle kind of looking at which side was the driest. And there wasn't a dry side, and there was sort of slush on the windshield, and it was probably 2 above and sideways rain. And I thought, I am not Canadian enough for this anymore. I said, you know what, put that thing back in the trailer. We're going home for some whiskey. So my friends actually came over. We didn't ride any horses. We put them back in the barn. We went in the house and sat there and had a little bit of bourbon that afternoon and changed our minds, because it doesn't take any time at all to be like, man, that cold, the damp, the rain, it's hard. But we did have beautiful snow in the mountains across from us. And it was, we wondered moving down here if we were going to miss the cold, if we were going to say, man, we kind of miss winter, man, you kind of miss that sort of thing. But I don't know, it gets close to zero. The other morning we had ice in the water troughs here, it was -1, -2. Yeah. And it's still -1, -2. It doesn't matter. It sure helps that it's perfectly sunny and it's 20 by noon. Yeah. But it's still cold in the morning. It's not -25, obviously, but.
No, if people haven't experienced that desert climate, I have the good fortune of going and making quite a few winter trips down to visit my mother-in-law down in the Palm Desert area. And, at night when, the all that warm air is just gone. It's like somebody flips a switch, and very much the same where you are, and even that much further north. So, but yeah, people don't want to hear you complaining about it. That's for sure. Hey, I gotta.
Well, I sure want me to.
Well, yeah, no, I gotta give you the gears here, though. Just someone like my friend Ron would want me to say, oh, geez, you moved south, but you forgot your razor back home. Hey, since you got a nice beard coming in there, Jim, I gotta say I like it, but.
Well, you know what? I was leaving the horse show the other day. It's good for something. One, I needed extra shade because it's hot here, so I just it's like shade for the rest of me.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that for the last couple of months. Two, I stopped by the gas station on my way home. That's another American thing, where you can just grab a beer or two every time you go by the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
But, that's a real American thing. And we were coming home from Westworld the other day, and, I thought, I'll stop in there. It's 8:45, and they close at 9. And they closed up early because Scottsdale, even though it's kind of, big time city, town, whatever, it still is kind of old school backcountry, which I really, really love that.
Yeah, they don't have any street lights there, right? So the sun goes down, you got to go home.
The end of the day, you go home. Well, anyways, I go check the door at the gas station. It's locked at 9:45. Just like, you just will live in Claresholm, And, and I said, man, shit, too bad. And I kind of, said this out loud. I think Zarena was with me. And like 4 pumps over, the gas station attendant says, yeah, sorry, we're closed. And he's like talking to his buddy at the gas station attendant, or at the pump. And then he goes, wait, hang on a sec. You're the guy with that cool beard. Oh, I'll open the door. Did you need a beer or something? What were you coming by for?
That's awesome.
Well,
I got the door open for me because I have a cool beard. So now I've decided to keep it. And of course I can't shave it off because my wife won't sleep with the 12-year-old.
Hey, do you want to give Jim the news there, Eric? He's talking about buying a beer at a gas station. He's been gone for a while. I was thinking
it's true. Yeah, no, Claresholm 7-Eleven. You can now actually buy beer.
Nice. Well, I'm moving straight back then.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. It's a done deal. Hey, you mentioned Claresholm. I'm looking to your left and right there, Jim, and I'm seeing a couple of pictures that are from the exhibition. So, you
would think I put them there on purpose.
Yeah, I know. No, it's
actually that's not the truth because I got a glare on the one, but they've actually been sitting here for a while. They are part of my set. They're some of my favorite photos. So.
Well, I have this a list of questions here, but while we're talking about it, let's jump into it because your daughter Zarena, who you mentioned earlier, she had a pretty special last show there at the exhibition, and she was a saddle shootout champion. How's she doing, and how's her brand new saddle? I know she's been riding on it for a bit here, but how's that all going?
You know what? She loves it. We talk about it all the time. It comes back up in conversation all the time. It's just like the best way to go out. The last Canadian show we had, there were a lot of fears. Everybody sees it going well and everybody sees the sunshine and the great photos and everything. But if you have a good business, and was I the most competitive with my reiners every day of the week? Maybe not. Are there better guys in your neighborhood that are showing reining horses in Canada? Certainly. Was my barn full? Did I have a huge lesson program? Did I do those clinics? Did I have a good business going on? Certainly. And so to just walk away from that and be like, hey guys, we love you all and we're going to go try something else was incredibly scary for me, for the kids, for my wife, and we talk about it all the time, how much fun it was to go out on that particular note of her winning that rookie shootout and winning the saddle. And then it was really fun to drive in. It was May, I guess. It was almost 9 or 10 months later when it was actually done, and to drive just down here to Scottsdale and go pick it up at Bob's headquarters.
Yeah.
And to stand there in the office at the Bob's Custom Saddles headquarters down here and tell stories about Canada and exhibition and how she won it with everybody there in the office. It was really funny because the saddle was sitting up there on the stand and she was super excited to get it. And then we stood around there with everyone as though it was only I can do and told stories and carried on and laughed and joked, Yeah, exactly. And we loaded the saddle up and we threw it in the truck and she says, Papa, I didn't even sit on it to get a picture in the office. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? That's you're painting a picture in our mind because that's just awesome. And we've had a lot of special moments at the exhibition so far. We've been at it for a few years, but honestly, the family that surrounded her in that moment and the tears, it was emotional. It was special. I'll never forget that. I know you won't either, but
no.
And
no, she rides it every day, actually, every day here, she uses that saddle. She's shown in it a lot. And to cap it off, we had this discussion, she and I, because you've met her as well. And she's relatively mature young competitor. She works like crazy. She's always heads up. There's a lot of times when she helps me figure stuff out, and I forget that she's now just barely 14,
Yeah.
But we had a lot of discussions about the move as well, because you get, she's got a great horse. She works really hard. She can do well if she gets it figured out. But she come here to Arizona and she says to me, Papa, down there, everybody says I'm special or I'm a special rider, but let's be honest, in Scottsdale, I'm not special. Because every other 13-year-old is a trainer's kid here too. You're up against Sydney Milstetter and you're up against all these other young girls with, very, very strong pocketbooks behind them, dad's company, his business, 3 generations of whatever. You're up against some big time 13-year-olds. And that was,
and horsepower.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Sydney Mulestarter's riding stuff that Martin's won 110,000 on, and you can show it in the youth if you want to. But the crazy thing, guys, is that here we are, and the year-end banquet is coming up in a couple of weeks for the Arizona Reining Horse Association, and Zarena won the year-end here in Arizona as well.
That's amazing.
So she's the 13 and under champion for her very first year here in Arizona. I hauled her over to Dan Huss for like 6 a.m. lessons when it was hot out. We'd go take Ted over to Dan Huss's place, and she'd go ride with him at 6 a.m. And she won the Arizona Reining Horse Association year end. And Emily won the Rookie Pro here. So, the two girls that I dragged with me that won a show, I mean, they both had pretty good years.
Yeah. Well, we got to see Emily made her way back up here, but of course that's your sister, or one of your sisters, and so she's taken on that Rookie Pro title. Congrats to her. Congrats to Zarena. Please pass that along for us.
Oh, I will, for sure. Absolutely.
You just the conversation with you, Jim, is always so natural. I've always enjoyed it over the years. So I'm going to go into the fact that your family has always been there to support you. It's such an important part of your love for horses and the work that you do. Do you want to talk a little bit about your family and the different aspects of how they, they're so important to you in and outside of the arena?
Yeah, I thanks for that. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. I've always, all the years that you and I have sat around in the bleachers somewhere as you were building stuff, or as you were sitting behind the computer at Heritage Park down in Chilliwack in 2014, the first time you guys showed up there and started doing the photo pass for whatever $20 it was to get all your show photos. Like, from the start, you guys have had brilliant ideas, and I've always loved that, to sit around and talk, with you guys. So, there's that. Family, yeah. I joke and say if I didn't have my wife and kids, I'd probably live in a mobile home behind somebody else's place and ride colts. Most of my drive to be successful or to build something has come from, trying to develop a good life for my wife, trying to see Zarena progress, because of the work she puts in, trying to give Emily as many opportunities as possible. She's 21 this year, and she's actually just December 1st gone to work for Glenn Estival down the road. So I've hired a new guy, and she's off to work for somebody else after a year here. She's only got up to go. And over all the years, I'm the oldest. I've got 6 younger sisters. The 2 oldest rode, and the 2 youngest rode. And a lot of my drive to stay in it through all those tough years, through all the years you didn't have enough horsepower, you were just trying to make it, came from those sisters having a horse or two. They always would show up. They'd always be competitive. A lot of my personal drive to stay in it when it was hard came from seeing them successful, and it's honestly a big part of the move here. I mean, it became less about me and my own career moving here, and more about my wife really getting a nice house and a good place to live, and my daughter having every opportunity to get a scholarship to some university through the effort she's put in riding. And, it became a lot more about those things actually as the move went on, because my sisters have been around, my mom and dad have been around, my wife obviously doesn't ride, but I mean, she's always supported my crazy ideas to be a horse trainer from the very beginning, from the time that we started dating and had, $14 in our bank account, and we needed 17 to put gas in the car, It was always family. And I don't think there's very many, and probably it's the same for you guys, it's probably why we get along, is there's not many families that get along in that way, that they can work together, struggle together, day in and day out, year after year, to build something and all be committed to the same thing. And I think, to me, that's so much deeper than marking a 218 or a 225 or whatever my personal dream is. That ability to build something that everyone is a part of, everyone gets behind it. I mean, I didn't ride horses till I was 17. I didn't grow up with horses. My family didn't. My dad didn't own a dog as a kid. There's so many things that, should have said, you're never going to be a horse trainer in your life. Trust me, you won't be. Yeah. And yet, here's all my sisters doing it. My kids are doing it. My youngest one is 3 now. I mean, I was just riding double with her this morning. She can't understand why people pay me to ride horses, and she can't ride double with me on all of them. She's the next one coming up. She says to me yesterday or day before, we're riding around, she says, I'm getting pretty strong, Papa, and I could ride all of them. He said, well, you're 3 and the lady pays me to train on it. And I don't know if she wants you to train on it yet, but maybe one day, So even as Rena gets kind of aged out or moves on to something, I'm stuck for another 20 years because, she's coming behind every day wanting to ride. So the middle 2 don't ride. I've got 4 kids, and the youngest and the oldest it's 100% in their blood. Like there's no stopping it.
Well, but your middle ones aren't 17 yet. So, hey, you never know the path they're going to take.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, fair enough. Good point.
Well, no. And I mean, I think we all heard with the latest futurity champion there, Casey O'Rourke, that, right? She was told you can't do it, and people can surprise you. There's so many different ways to get there, and the hard work and the resiliency and all those incredible skills that go into, becoming a trainer or just even being a rider. It's all there. So, it's a common theme that we have with our guests or conversations on the podcast, that it turns out being a horse trainer just isn't easy. Isn't that been proven for you, Jim?
Yeah, I think the sticking with it, you've got to have a deeper reason to stick with it. If you're just after buckles and trophies, or if you're just after someone to pat you on the back and tell you you're amazing, you're probably going to run out of, desire pretty quickly. Like it has to be deeper than that. And you have to enjoy something else about it. Like if you just enjoy riding horses, then be a non-pro, have fun, do it as a hobby, whatever. Once you get into it as a business, you have to enjoy the people side of it. You have to enjoy that it's a game. You have to enjoy that it's really a business, and you enjoy being an entrepreneur that's picked the hardest thing to make money at. You have to enjoy that the overhead is almost insurmountable most of the time. All those things that are part of being a horse trainer outside of the physical, tool belt that you need to actually get a horse trained to go out and do something after someone's paid you to do this. That's a lifelong journey in itself,
But I feel like, Jim, that might be one of your secret sauces, that, you have approached your work as a professional, as a business, and some of the things that I've seen you do that we've talked about that you've done, I hope we're going to bring up in conversation here today. But one of the questions I had for you is obviously getting into it late at 17 and then and all of that work. Did you have some mentors that kind of helped you get started and start down the path where you are now? I'm sure you still, I understand that south of the border, there's just such a great collaborative community among professionals where you can ask questions, you can be at a big show, and if you got a horse that's giving you a hard time about something, you can ask. But who are some of those people outside of your family, because we talked about that, who have been there to help you?
Well, it's amazing because it really starts in southern Alberta. I mean, I started my career at Fort McLeod, and Gordon and Sandy Hester are still there on the same property on Spring Point Road there out towards the Buffalo Jump. And that's where I started as a stall cleaner at 17 years old. And then I was the colt starter. And, crazy, I was 17. I'll be 40 in February. So we're looking at 23 years coming up in April. So I'm 22 and a half years training horses. And I talk to Sandy Hester, I believe, every day. If I miss a day, it's because something happened. That lady has been family to me. I really genuinely started I knew nothing. Like I was afraid to halter and take some of those horses out of the barn because they'd hop around a little bit when you were leading them out in the morning. Like that was the level of knowledge and experience I had. And, she put me on whatever came in. I learned a ton, and I started several thousand colts over my career with them for 5 years. And then the reining always interested me, and that's what I started to chase. And since then, as far as riding mentors, I mean, Hubert, you guys know Hubert really well. I hung around with him for the 3 years. He was in Abbotsford. I think that helped me a lot with some of the stuff in my program. I worked for John O'Hara in Texas for a couple of weeks, actually, as a mentorship. And, it sounds like a couple of weeks is nothing. But 14, 15 years ago, I picked up so much from that guy. I still think about the stuff that I learned just in that time. And, it's always been really cool. The horse trainers have always been supportive. The connections down at the big shows, like you said, or, I do feel like I can talk to anyone. Maybe that's something that I'm good at and other people aren't good at. But personally, my feeling is that any of those guys, if you go up and ask a question and you're stuck on something, Mandy and Tracy Brumley, who manage and run Cactus Classic, and, they used to have Raining by the Bay and, of course, High Roller. I mean, they live just down the road here. And when I'm stuck on something, I phone Tracy and say, hey, can I come over in the morning? And, we'll work on whatever. Like, he's a great coach, super, super great guy to help you out. So he's been a real big help. And obviously, I can't talk about any of this without my very, very good friend, Steve Ross. You know, I mean, everyone knows that name. He lives 2.5 miles from here. He comes here for dinner and reads storybooks to my kids like a grandpa. You know, he's such a natural encourager when I get stuck or when I'm frustrated. And that started this whole conversation a number of years ago when I was here in 21 for the Arabian show, and I was bored, and I phoned him to see if I could ride sail horses, and I rode there a couple of days because I just wanted to do something.
Wow.
And he said, you know, what are you doing in Canada? You know, you're American anyway. Get your butt out of Canada, get down here, you'll be fine. And that's easy for Steve Ross to say because he's Steve Ross, and I'm just Jim with 4 kids and a wife, you know. You know, that conversation kept going until we decided, you know what, like maybe Steve has something.
But
and
he brings that personality too, like you do, right? So.
Oh, I get along with him on so many levels for exactly that. Like he's that kind of fun, you know, charismatic, very intelligent. We can talk about horses and horse training all day long, or we can make other totally mundane references about who knows what and probably also know what we're talking about. There's so many times we're riding over there together and he makes jokes. He's like, I don't think anybody else got that. And so, you know, he's just a natural encourager. Every time I get frustrated, you know, I can phone him and talk to him. And, you know, I think still in my mind, it's like mind numbing that I live around the corner from Steve Ross and can talk to him like a friend whenever, you know, it's mind numbing to me after the years of watching these idols of mine that, you know, he comes here for dinner when Boo's gone to horse shows and reads storybooks to my kids on the couch. You know, it's mind numbing to me that I did a trainer's power clinic, the very first one that I've done in my career of trainers only. Yeah. A week-long clinic that we did here in the yard, and Steve came one morning to be a guest speaker at my event. You know, that kind of stuff is just, I don't think it's even real to me still a year and a bit into this that we actually live here in Scottsdale and this is the neighborhood. And I'm forever grateful for that. It's crazy. It really, to sit here and talk to you guys about it, it's still not probably real in my head, you know.
It's real, Jim. It's happening.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. No, I'm on your website because I can see, like, unless you used AI to generate some of these images here, then I would say no. It's real, and your family here, they all look happy and healthy. It's real special. Hey, I wanted to ask you, your journey that took you to the master class. Tell people who don't maybe know about that experience, sort of how that began and some of the things that you've learned from it. Where is it now? Because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that video side of things. Because, you know, like one of your secret sauces is you're out there paying attention to the technology and not afraid to dive in and take advantage of those tools that are out there. So I feel like Masterclass is an example of that. Maybe there's others you want to talk about, but tell us a little bit for the people who don't know what it is, sort of where you went to with that.
Yeah, totally. You know, it was probably always in me. I think my wife, you know, Pauline would say that for years and years, I always talked about, you know, and utmost respect to the late Bobby Avila, but, you know, I always watched his videos and saw his stuff, and it was just so smooth and it was so clean and it was so professional. And I thought that's where the business is at. You know, you can train horses all day long. And I was just in conversation with my daughter here an hour ago because a trainer friend of ours around the corner, one of his customers from North Dakota, she's coming into town. She's talking about, you know, drop over here. I talked to her a bunch. She's going to come over. She has my online course. And she was saying she just bought him a fancy yearling turning 2-year-old. And she's really excited that he's going to do it, you know, but yeah, I want him to go all the way. And I really hope that, he can really make it, you know, but if we get to a certain point and I have to make a move to another trainer, like I guess I have to do that to make sure he gets to the top. And Serena and I were just talking about that and said, that is one of the glass ceilings. That's one of the ceilings. The problems with horse training is that if you stick entirely with just training show horses, you're always at the whim of what that owner wants to do. Even the nicest people are going to invest in you for a certain amount of time, and then they're going to move the horse somewhere else if it's really, you know, pick me, for example. You know, you give me a really nice horse, we get to a certain level, but I'm 2.5 miles from Andrea Fapani. Like, if it's really that nice, it's not hard to phone him and say, hey, my trainer next door has one that I think is really nice. I'm kind of thinking that you need to sit on it.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks for me. You know?
Yeah.
And so over all the years, there's only so many lessons you can do, only so many horses you can ride, only so many shows you can go to. And that's really, really been impressed on me living here. Because, man, you can go every weekend to a big time show and just run the bones off yourself. You know, it's hard. It's really hard, and it never stops. But you can get around that glass ceiling by expanding around the world. You can get around that glass ceiling by selling something that is a residual income. You know, and so the training videos, the program that Clinton Anderson has and Bobby Avila and some of these other big name, well-known people always interested me, because to me, that was the thing that would allow you to slow down. It would allow you to do more quality over quantity. It would allow you to, say, build something that pays your mortgage and pays for your family to live. And then you have 10 or 12 horses that are fun to take to horse shows. And you're not ever with all your eggs in one basket. You don't have to go all in on that lady's new 2-year-old, because this is your one ticket out of wherever. You know, you really, I mean, it's diversified. It's just simply look at your industry and what out there is a problem that you're fairly certain you could solve for anyone. You know, so pick something in the horse industry, say, this is something I really feel like I can solve for almost any person that comes in the gate by me. Yeah. And then build your program around what that is that you solve for people, and do that in your yard, do that online, build videos about it. And that, to me, that was the basis. That was the ground under everything that I did. And it took a long time to learn enough to know what doesn't work. It took a long time to learn enough to have the confidence to say, hey, I really think if I start to tell people this and they take it home and use it, it's going to work for them too. That's 10, 15, 20 years of doing something to get any good at it. You know, there's no magic to that. But then what we did is we started doing social media. So then the idea was I paid a very good video guy in Chilliwack to come out consistently. You know, Lucas Stiles came out consistently. We started out very simple, doing YouTube videos once a week. Then it grew into other things. And then we really took off with Instagram Reels, and we just shot training content, fun stuff, action stuff. Every week posted Reels 7 days a week. And we went from 3,500 Instagram followers to 100,000 in 18 months. Yeah. Entirely organic. None of it was paid for through Instagram. None of it was sponsored ads. It was entirely paying a video guy to make really good content. And then, like I always joke, I was the, you know, monkey, and it was my circus. You know how people always say it's not my circus, not my monkeys. Well, it is my circus, and I am the monkey. Right. So I did the tricks, and that took off. And I had to explain why $2,700 a month to a video guy to become Instagram famous was a good idea to my wife. Trust me, that was certainly something I had to get her around, you know, like, and I don't give a shit about Instagram fame. It means absolutely nothing to me. What you need to do if you're going to branch out from training horses and riding and training all day, every day, and that's it, you need to build a secondary audience. Yep. Because once you have a secondary audience, then you can build a product to sell. Yep. You know, and so that's where Reining Masterclass came in. And you can go to reining-masterclass.com and see all of that stuff. You can find it through my new website now, where you just were a minute ago, under online courses. You can find me at Jim Greendyk Horses on Instagram if you haven't already followed me. And so that's where I said to Lucas, okay, like, this is clearly taking off. People clearly are interested in what I have to say, whether that's big time reiners or whether that's horse people all over the world. And that's what it's become, is horse people all over the world. Yeah. I said, we need to find some way for me to make this money back, because it's great that you go home every month with $2,700, and it's great that I'm Instagram famous, but that doesn't pay my mortgage. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I think you went about it from the right perspective. From, you know, people who have developed that social media following. You know, you have to have a purpose for doing it. If the purpose is clear, and then you have to work hard at it. And I think that's something that you've had to do, right? But talk about that, because it's not easy. Again, it's just, it doesn't happen. It's not magic.
No, it's not. It's such a marathon. Lucas knows this. You know, I mean, the amount of times that he drove, we booked the time. I knew it was 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Thursday. I knew it was 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Tuesday. You know, that those time slots were booked in where we were going to shoot content. So you have to plan the horses, plan the exercises. In some cases, we even planned, you know, bullet points of what things we were going to cover, but typically not. Typically, it was really me off the cuff, just being me. And I think that's a big part of it, is you have to really decide to be entirely authentic. You can't make content because this seems like what people want. You can't make content because it's controversial and you're going to get likes. You really have to, you can't, Brad Paisley says, so much cooler online. And that's the whole point of that song, is you can't be. Like, if you're going to be real and be successful, you have to be just as genuine today in your yard as you are on social media. That's the big magic of it. And I was standing in my yard today, and one of the husbands came up, lady's riding here and leasing a horse and having lessons, and she's super nice. Her husband is one of the original founders of DoorDash, and they sold out in their early 40s and are very successful. And we were standing here today in my arena talking about the business side of things and the social media side and the technology side and the being genuine. Like, when you drove in the yard here, he got to meet someone who, his wife was showing him all of my Instagram. He knows me from that. And then he got to meet me in real life. And, that's a big, big part of it. But I promise you, this is why most horse trainers don't do it, is because it's brutally hard. The amount of days I was sick to my stomach, having gone through the day riding, training horses, teaching lessons, nothing went right, something's broken, the water's leaking over here, and Lucas drives in with all of his cameras and goes, "Oh, okay, I'm ready. You're ready to shoot." No, I'm not. No, not even a little bit. Like, the mental toughness to go, "Alrighty, guys, I'm really excited to be here. It's very cool to have you with us today." What we're going to talk about today is these three things. So I'm going to start here. We're going to work on this horse a little bit. If he's soft on the left, we're going to go straight to the right, and we're going to really make sure that we get both sides of that horse's face soft. It has to become like sound bites, machine-like. You just have to do it. Yeah. You just have to be able to flip a switch and say, we're doing the content because someday it's going to pay me back. And I think that was the thing I always thought, is every time it was super hard and I was ready to cancel and I was sweating or I was frozen or I was tired or some other thing in the family, in the life, whatever, I thought those moments when it's so hard are the moments that differentiate someone who does it and makes it and is successful with someone who goes, "Screw that, I'll just buy somebody else's program."
One of the things that I don't remember specifically having a conversation with you around, but we've seen it from time to time, through our work with the trainers. A reality is that the reining professional is the type A personality. They're seeking perfection in their horses and in themselves. And so when it comes time to capturing that content, that they're going to say, okay, this is an example of excellence. This is an example of how to do it. And inevitably, when they look back at it, it's like, oh, that's not it. I can do it better. And I feel like, just accepting that it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the non-pro who it's intended for will embrace the fact that, yes, it isn't going to be perfect. Is that something that you've been able to sort of come to terms with, and being willing to put content out there that maybe it's not your best example?
I think that's entirely the magic of it. If you can put your ego aside and make it not about you. If you're making the content to make yourself look good, you're not after the right thing. Like, if you're putting the content on social media so that everyone else goes, "Whoa, it's perfect," that's the same as using filters to be a 24-year-old woman and causing more anxiety for yourself than is necessary, because that's not genuine. Like, you can look like something online and not look entirely like that in real life. I think that was something like, I don't know if I ever had that conversation, because I think that I always knew that. I always had the feeling that, like, you have to be believable. It has to be real. It's entirely fine for people to see it, because you're appealing to a group of people that are not professionals. You're appealing to a group of people who actually want somebody to put their arm around them and say, "Hey, when you run down there and bounce 4 feet in the air, it's okay. It happens to me too."
Yeah.
And when you do that, you create a family. You create a community. You create, the other day, I don't know if you guys saw that Instagram story. I should send you that photo. But the one of me stopping my horse here in my outdoor, perfect sunset background in the Bozell, perfect, big time, +1 stop. The same photo shoot, I stopped that horse, and my legs are straight and my arms are straight, and I'm about 3.5 feet above the saddle. I ate shit so hard. And I posted Instagram versus reality and did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And I got feedback from the neighborhood here because, the trainer said, dude, like, we can't believe you posted. We died laughing. We can't believe the stuff that you post about yourself. But my argument was I did more for the people coming into the sport. I did more for the grassroots of the sport with that photo than the perfect stopping photo. Everyone expects me to have a perfect stopping photo. They kind of expect that that's how all reining trainers are. But when you post one 4 feet in the air like that and you laugh about it and say, hey, trust me, you can come here for lessons and miss 500 stops. I don't care as long as you keep working hard and trying. That brings people in. That shows people the reality of what it is. And my whole basis under reigningmasterclass.com was to reverse engineer what it is, to make it, hey, these aren't perfect horses. These aren't, the criticism that always comes back to me is people cancel their Matt Mills subscription and they buy mine because it's hard to believe, because he uses perfect horses. His shirt is always perfectly pressed. He looks great. I mean, Matt always looks amazing in all of his social media stuff. But that's the feedback I get all the time is, well, his horse had a problem in the spin that he went to fixing, and we just thought we'd like to have a horse that spun as good as the problem horse.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And the market, because you need the market, there's room for all of that, right? And so, yeah. No, that's great.
I would say I'm the gateway drug to reining. You might get into it and you might go on to somebody else and you might buy a fancy horse and go ride with another trainer. But I am 100% the gateway drug to reining. You come here, you show up in my yard. We have a ton of fun. We have those power clinics where everybody rides for 4 days straight, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
And my thing is I can get everybody to neck rein. I can get you to steer around. I can get your horse to lope on a drape rein. We can do all kinds of fun. And once you understand that reining is a steering competition, well, the world's your oyster. You can go off and do whatever you want. You can stay here. You can move on to somebody else. I don't have feelings about that. But I really love the sports. I love the industry. And I really believe if you give back to the industry, it'll always look after you.
You're the drug and the first one's always free, or what?
It depends. If you're the husband, you have to pay double. But no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I mean, as far as, you exported or returned to the U.S. because you're American. You said that earlier. But you left Canada, you head south. But, I mean, there was a big migration out of Arizona, maybe from California, heading towards Texas. Like, is that something that you thought, like, geez, maybe I need to go there? Or are you happy where you're at now and stay there for a long time?
That comes back to Steve Ross. I mean, he and I had lots of discussions. I looked in North Texas and I looked here. Yeah. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can get more land there, you can get more space there. I also had to come to terms with what my business is. I don't have 30 yearlings in my backyard. I'm not really into the breeding. Steve and I decided that Texas is wholesale and Scottsdale here is retail. Here people fly in, they buy their expensive horse. They have it here because they love coming here in the winter. You can go from here 20 minutes down the road to any kind of 5-star restaurant you want. I do a lot of people stuff. People don't go in January to North Texas for a vacation. Texas is kind of too much everything at that level. It's too cold. It's too humid. It's too hot. It's, too big of storms, too big of bugs. And I'm generalizing, obviously, you understand what I'm saying, but in making a very big life choice, I had to come to this sort of a conclusion. And Steve's living, he's lived in Stevensville, Texas for years and had a very good understanding of both markets. And I really relied on him. And I wouldn't for 1 minute think I want to be somewhere else. My family, my wife doesn't ride. She's used to living in Chilliwack. Same thing. I think if we had lived somewhere in Alberta on a larger property and had driven 45 minutes to Walmart all the time and we're used to that, North Texas would probably be very similar and comfortable. But we lived in the Lower Mainland. We were in a populated area. We were close to town. She could run and grab things and come home again. You could do all of those things that families do other than living out on a farm. And I was afraid that if we moved to Texas as far from family and all the other things that she was willing to give up, and then we were, 45 minutes from a dive bar and a Walmart because that was your small town, I would become very Texan. In a week, I would be as redneck as ever. And I can tell you a story about George and Ryan Bell and being at Bell Ranch. I could tell you a story about being redneck. I don't know.
Redneck. I think you should. This is story time. You want to do that now, or you want to come back to that?
But open a can of worms now. I probably should tell that story. It's a good story. But I could become redneck overnight. It was no problem for me. I'm entirely a chameleon. I'm a gypsy. I could load up tomorrow and I could find an Irish pub in North Carolina and I could sit down and have a burger and a beer and talk to the guy beside me and start my training business over. Like I have full confidence in that. Not that I'm amazing, but that is just what I'm able to do. That's just the character I have. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
But I looked at everything else and I thought, with the people stuff I do, with all of that, the sales that we did in Chilliwack, we were always buying and selling horses for people. You're close to all of that here. The Canadians come down here. There's lots of people in town right now for the next 6 months. It's just full steam ahead, buying, selling, lessons, whatever. And so I just always felt, and I had shown here at Westworld for the first time in 2009. So I had like 15 years that I'd come back and forth here in February for horse shows. And I was also relatively familiar with the neighborhood and with a lot of the trainers here. So it kind of just made more sense for us. And then we stumbled across this property, which I'm forever grateful for. It's just the most amazing place,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, something that you do so easily, Jim, is you make friends. And I know that there's a lot of our listeners who refer to, my friend Jim. So thank you for coming and spending some time with us and catching up. And it's great to know that, through this conversation that things are going so great for you and your family. Mark, did you have anything that you wanted to throw at Jim
for sure.
here?
Of course. Yeah. You've already, plugged various websites and your Instagram and where we can catch you. And we've talked obviously a lot about the past and the present and touched on the future a little bit. I'd like to dive into the past. I think it was the first conversation we ever had. I don't know if you remember this. We were way up in Prince George.
Maybe.
And,
sure.
and you were talking about then you were trying to figure out what was next for you, and you were saying about how the lessons are good and you're training some horses and all this stuff, but that feeling you got going down for a great big stop and stuff, you were like, should I be doing that? And do you still get that same feeling in the show pen, or what is that next thing for you that really is you're thinking about? Maybe this is where the next 5, 10, 15, who knows how many years is where you're heading for.
Yeah, you know what, that's super interesting. That certainly has been called into question, just myself calling it into question, myself being here, because now you're in the middle of it, and it's amazing to see it in real time here in Scottsdale among, of the top 100 trainers in the reining, the cow horse, the cutting, half of them probably live in a 10-mile radius here. From Corey Cushing to Andrea Fapani to Marco Ricotta and Arno Homstetter and Steve Ross and, you pick it, they all live here in this neighborhood. That level 4 big time going to every show thing is a hard gig. That's a tough deal. And there's a lot of uncertainty there. I love the sales. I love the clinics that we do here in the yard. It's interesting to look at the numbers and again, come back to the business, because suddenly here, there is so much of it that you really can niche down into something that you say, this is the thing I actually really love doing all day, every day. So I'm going to do that so well. And there's enough population, there's enough business, and it really comes back to my big fish in a small pond, where everyone wants to be the big fish in a small pond, it seems, or that's the way that it's portrayed. And I would argue it's much more fun to be a small fish in a big pond, where you can eat a little in the corner and you're not really worried about anything. I can eat just a little in the corner here in Scottsdale, and it's plenty to pay my mortgage, and it's plenty to have a good life. And I don't need to be the next Andrea Fapani. I'm not, for starters. And for two, I don't need to be, because there's so much business to be had just in buying and selling horses, just in flipping horses. Just for perspective's sake, in the last 9 days, I've made $5,600 in sales commissions just on horses.
Well, nice.
And I'm guessing that's not happening if you're back home here, or it's just harder to happen. Is that fair?
I sold a ton of horses. I sold $255,000 worth of horses in 2021 out of Chilliwack.
Yeah.
But that entire year, of selling those horses was $25,000 in commission. You know, I'm a fifth of the way there in the last 7 days.
Right.
Just to do the numbers, you know, and I don't say any of that. What I'm saying, just as a business thing, the horses sell for more money here. Lady just showed me one. She's bringing 3 this weekend. She had one to send me in training. Then she wanted to bring her other mare because it looked like a nice place to live. So she's going to bring it for us to ride to. And then she shows me a video of a Palomino, Wimpy's New Step, something or other that she has in a field in Oregon. And she can't get $8,000 for that thing in Oregon, trying to sell it out of her field because it kind of is a mare and it maybe pins its ears a little bit when you poke on it, whatever. I said, it's a Palomino, 10-year-old mare that's sound and going to pass a vet check. I said, drop it off here at my place for the next month or 2. Let's fit it up. Let's get it fat. We can sell it here to a nice trail riding or a ranch riding or something. If it's any bit nice, probably for 18 or 20,000 US. And that's like a base level, entry level practice horse here. And so just the numbers of it, she said, well, shoot, that makes sense. I'll put it on the trailer. It showed up here 2 days later. We put it to work. I've ridden it now 4 days in a row. It's a pretty nice mare. We're going to fit it up, put it under lights, get it shed out, make it look like it's a Scottsdale horse, and we'll get it sold for her in maybe 2 months, and we'll make her a couple extra $1,000 on it once I take my commission. But you're selling horses for so much more in this neighborhood because Steve always laughs and says, Scottsdale's just a horse mall. People wander into the horse mall here, and they accidentally show up in somebody's place, and they accidentally buy things they didn't need, the same as you do when you go to the mall.
That's a good analogy.
Wow.
Steve's the master of analogies. So my 5-year, 10-year plan, I always chuckle, and I've said this for years. I'm going to take over from Steve in his areas of expertise when he starts to slow down. You know, he's 61. You know, we talk about it all the time. You know, he wants to do more of the TV stuff and more of the announcing stuff. And, you know, the sales, I mean, he's built himself a great empire, taking in reiners and fitting them up and matching them with great people all over the country, all over the world. And it's something that I really love doing. So we hang out a lot doing that. And if you can put a horse in the stall and ride it and train on it and then sell it from your place for the 10% commission on top of the stall, then you have 2 stalls of your own that you put 1 or 2 prospects in that make good money. And you have the rest of your barn full of that kind of thing, and you kind of double dip on every single stall, and it just makes more sense as a numbers game.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, you know, your approach to the work as a business is part of your secret sauce, and it's essential. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of the open and professional riders out there who they're incredible riders. They're incredible trainers. They just want to ride on that horse. But at the end, that might not be what leads them to being financially successful, for being viable and being able to do it for a real long time. And I mean, the fact that,
and I come back to, you know, like I said earlier, like really honestly, legitimately, if I was single and 35 and had no wife and kids, I probably would live in a mobile home behind somebody's place and just train reiners all day and never care.
Yeah.
You know, if I was single and 40 and had a girlfriend and we were working out of somebody else's place and lived in a trailer on the property, I would probably take that horse and be like, this is my next big time prospect, and go all in on it. I love it. I love the training. I love the showing. I love going and doing. But the risk versus reward, the numbers game, the travel, it's the same with clinics. Like, clinics are great. I mean, I got a bunch of new ones coming up. I'm going to Mexico. I'm supposed to go to Italy. I think I've got a deal done to go to China.
wow,
China.
Cool.
Like China.
I get what you're saying there. You're a good laugh, Jim.
It doesn't matter how much you charge to go to China for 10 days. You know, the guy wants me to come for 15 days, like a very good amount of money per day. And for 10 days, train with me. And for 5 days, go see the Forbidden City, the Great Wall of China, Beijing, whatever you like to see. 5 days we travel.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this comes out of your social media presence because I was contacted via. But even that, no matter how much you charge, you have to get on a plane and go 15 days to China, and the travel and the intensity of teaching all day, and get back on the plane and come home and get back into your business and leave your business for 10 days or 12 days. Or like, it's great. I did tours across Canada since I've left. I've been back and, you know, been in Salmon Arm, gone to the East Coast. I'm coming back this coming spring, summer for a bunch again. I love it. Canadians have been super supportive. But you still have to be gone 2 weeks. You still have to travel someplace. You still have to go and do that. You still have to be a rock star where you traveled all night, overnight to get to Newfoundland. And then in the morning, you have to stand up and be there because those people paid a ticket to come see you perform, you know? And whether they came to learn from you or whether they came to audit and learn from you or whether they brought their horse, it doesn't matter how hard you flew last night to get here. They paid their ticket just like they paid to see a rock star, anything else. And it's your job to entertain. And that's hard. Like, even if you go a clinic, like, man, you pick Ward Schiller or Clinton Anderson, like, it's a ton of respect for those guys that did that on the road hardcore, because that's tough too.
Are you trying to tell us that the glamour of travel wears off really, really quickly?
I don't know. You guys have just done it from, you know, all over the country, yeah, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I gotta. I don't know what you're making me think, because I've talked about it since you've been down there. Is I got to get down there for a visit, and maybe it's the Cactus Classic this year. Have you got a horse that you'll be taking and showing at the Cactus?
I should. Yeah, I've got a couple. I got a really nice Tinker with Guns 4-year-old out of a Magnum. That's actually the one in that stopping photo. He's pretty cool. Yeah. I think if I get him right, he's a 218, 219 horse, which should be good. And I just got off the phone with a guy yesterday. He had one with Gabe Borges, and Gabe's moving to Texas, and so they're trying to figure out what to do with this horse. And so he's going to bring it up next week or so for an evaluation and see if I get along with it, see if it's something that I want to show. So that would be another one that they're hoping they can kind of salvage whatever and keep it going and find somebody that's a good fit for it. So I should have a couple Derby horses for Cactus for sure. I don't think I've got an open, like, run for $1 million qualifier, but there's always digging around, and you'd be surprised what happens. So Cactus would be spectacular. I'm a whole 25 minutes from Westworld, up the hill, you know, downtown Horse Trainer Alley here. It would be so cool to have you guys in the yard here. It'd be really, really fun.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, hey, best to you and to your family for an incredible Merry Christmas. Do you have some of the family that's still up here in Canada? They just come down and make Christmas in Arizona their thing now?
You know what? We haven't done that yet. I had actually last year. I had Sandy. Speaking of Sandy Hester, you know, back all the way to the beginning. Sandy and her son came down last year, you know, for Christmas, and we had a blast. The whole family is by my mom and dad in Chilliwack this year. They're all traveling there actually today, tomorrow. Yeah. So we don't have anything here planned, but you know, it's like 80 degrees and you know, it's 26 or something right now. So it's even hard to think Christmas. I was chuckling saying, you know, it's such nice weather. I don't really need a vacation. I don't need a day off. I really don't feel like I want to sit in the house and have hot chocolate and sit around the tree and do presents by the fire because it's like 75 degrees and sunny. I mean, we'll just go outside and ride horses. Why wouldn't you? You know, so it's a funny, different thing, you know. We don't have any family down here this time, but, you know, they've been down lots. Pauline's whole family came in August because they wanted to experience 110. So that was fun. You know, yeah, it's they've been here a lot, and we've had a lot of support, and it's been mind-blowing how many people have come down to stop in or stay a couple days or come and see us. It's been really, really cool, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks again. Thank you for your time, for coming on and you know, letting everyone up here, or the guests who listen to our podcast, they're going to be real happy to hear that you're doing so well and know that maybe they want to make the jump. And so we might have to get into the specifics. Like, here's the business plan. Here's how you get out of the cold and into the warm. No.
Well, you know what? You guys are awesome. It's such a, you know, from 10 years ago when we kind of first crossed paths to doing a podcast on your deal. I mean, how, you know, in my mind, that's kind of the same, you know, as Steve Ross coming over for dinner. Like it's really the same kind of thing. You guys have been a part of the show scene, you know, a decade of me growing and changing and building and having horses, and always knowing when I came to the horse show that you guys were supportive and positive and fun. And, you know, I appreciate that. I mean, some of the conversations we've had about the business have been part of what I've done with my life, you know, so.
Well, you might not know this yet, but we're transitioning the exhibition to the Calgary Stampede Park this year. So, you know, we've been talking. I
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I think that's crazy. Yeah, I totally saw that post how it's going to be in Calgary. I thought, man, that sounds fun.
Have you, I don't know, like a lot of people, a lot of rainers, because raining hasn't been happening there at the park. They're not aware, like, the incredible facility that is. So we can't wait to show it off. We're so happy to be working with the Calgary Stampede. We hope to make a show that folks like yourself might consider, like, hey, I might make the trek all the way up from Arizona with my horses. So I don't know if that's going to happen in 25, but that's what we're building towards. And you help us with that. These conversations help with that. So thank you again for your time and joining us. And let's keep this conversation going. And who knows, maybe in 25 we'll swing down and see in person how you're doing down there. So. Thank you, Jim.
Well, how fun would it be to do a podcast sitting here with you all around my desk? We could do it here in my yard, and we could do something here. I mean, that'd be really cool. I love the conversation. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your evening, and Merry Christmas to everybody too. It's great. Life's awesome. Go for it.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And thank you, everyone listening to the podcast. We'll have more episodes coming out because we're going fast and furious. This is a good time to catch up with people, some of Jim's friends who he's mentioned. Hopefully we can have on as guests here in the new year. And so, yeah, we're very excited about it. But thanks, everyone. And to everyone out there listening from us at the exhibition, Merry Christmas. And we'll look forward to catching up in 2025.